Hi, April here with Aaliyah Creative. Welcome and thank you for joining me today. Today, I want to ask you a question and share this art journal with you. And my question is: do you struggle with a daily creative practice? Because it's definitely something that has been an issue for me from time to time, and it still can be. And that is why I wanted to share this journal with you today and talk a little bit about kind of some tips and ideas that might help you if you are struggling with your daily creative practice, or you just don't know where to start, or you don't know how to keep going. All of those things are something that creatives struggle with on a regular basis. So let's get started here. So don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help my tiny channel grow and it makes my day. And this is my copycat journal, which is a Canson graduate. This is a great, smooth mixed media paper. It is perfect for alcohol markers and acrylic and sketching and drawing. It's very smooth, so not so great for watercolor. But this journal did not start out as a copycat journal. I started it as just simply for using only my alcohol markers. However, I wasn't using it. It just wasn't happening. I did these two lovely girls in the front. They are not something that I copied as far as I can remember. I may have used a reference photo, but I stuck this journal away, and like we do, I wasn't using it every day. So at some point, I decided I wanted to change my morning routine. And I was tired of, spending more time on my phone in the morning. So I decided I would go back to doing like a daily journaling and planning practice. And what I did was I filled up my little art kit, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, and with journals and supplies. And then this was one of the journals that I tossed in there. And I also put some of my alcohol markers in there. And the reason that I did this, and my first tip for you, is make it as easy as possible. So, having everything all together in one little tote that I can take to the sofa for some cozy morning art journaling and planning, it made all the difference. Everything was right there with me, and the journal was there just waiting to be used. However, sitting down and doing some artwork like this every morning felt a little overwhelming. So, it evolved into something else, which was I decided that all I needed to do was work in one of the journals in an artistic or creative way. That was the only real guideline. I didn't want to overcomplicate it or make it hard. I didn't want to say, oh, I can only use alcohol markers. You know, guys, if you watch me, you know I tend to have different journals that are dedicated to certain things. And then what always happens is it ends up being mixed media because your girl is a mixed media artist. That is just who I am. But here we have just this cute little whimsical house that I did with alcohol markers and I believe some maybe colored pencils here. Nope. I think just mainly alcohol markers on this one. So I was really having fun. I had the beautiful set of Ohuhu markers, but they were under my desk, which meant they didn't get used. So taking out just a few colors that I thought I would use on a regular basis, and sticking them in that art bag with this journal was one of the ways that I made it easier. So think about the things that you have, the things that you want to use, and the things you're not using, and think about how you could make it easier. So, these first artworks, again, are not part of the morning practice. These are some things that, like, for instance, this beautiful one here that I absolutely love. This one took quite some time, probably 30, 45 minutes, maybe longer. I may have even worked on it on the course of a couple of days. But we're coming into the part where I decided I needed to use this journal for a different purpose. So I switched to doing things that were simple. And the reason that I call it my copycat journal, and I encourage you to start a copycat journal because it is fun and easy. And so the idea is that I just find an image, a reference photo, something that appeals to me. I find it quickly and easily, and I try not to overthink it. And then I just draw it. I draw it, I paint it, I doodle it, and The idea here is not to make it look exactly like the reference photo. A lot of times I want to make it my own. Or if it comes out absolutely awful, like kind of this one is not my favorite thing that I've done, then it's okay because the goal here is not to create a masterpiece. It is to get your day started with creativity as quickly and easily as possible. Some days I will do just part of it. I believe this one I did just the flower, and then later on I went in and did the background. And this is where I started using some different media in here as well. I believe this was some colored pencil. I also used some old Jane Davenport kind of supplies that I've had laying around. I can't really explain what they were, but they're like kind of like makeup. They look like makeup, but they're art. And then one of the things that I revert back to if I don't want to do copying, like if I don't want to find an image to just copy or inspire me, is I will go back to my neographic art. And I have definitely shared videos about this. So you can watch those, or there's so many people that explain how they do it. There's kind of different twists and takes on it, but it's a very therapeutic way to start a morning art practice because, again, you're just having fun and movement and getting creativity going. It's not about the masterpiece. It's about making an effort to do it, not an effort to do it perfectly, not an effort to create a masterpiece, just to enjoy it, to get that creativity flowing. And it really will help you have a more creative day overall. On the days that I do this, and I do it most days now, it makes a huge difference. So this one, I just went in and doodled some random flowers, some that I make on a regular basis, some new ones. I looked up some different flower shapes, and then I even wrote some words, just kind of what I was thinking or working on that day. And that's the other tip. You don't have to be super strict. Yes, this is my copycat journal. Yes, one of my favorite things that I copied is this. I could not find the original artist. When I started this journal, I had no intention of showing it to anyone. So I saved the pens, but I didn't like go into depth trying to look through the who the artists are. Once I got to a point where I thought I might share this because it might inspire someone else, then I did start trying to jot down in the corners like the artist if I could find it. But again, the point of this, it was never to be shared, never to, take these things and say, this is mine, I created it, but just to create daily. And I think that once you take all of the difficulty out, it gets so much easier. We make it harder for ourselves. This is a sticker that was in one of my sticker books. And I worked on this for 3 mornings. So I would spend about 10 or 15 minutes on it. So you don't have to do the whole page in a day. That can feel really overwhelming and it could take more time than you have, but you can start, something like this one, which was definitely an image, a mixed media image that I found, but I wanted to see if I could recreate some of the texture with alcohol markers. So the circles in the back in the original image, that would have been like stencils and different layers of paint. But here I just use different values of color and building up those alcohol inks to kind of give it that feel. And I took some twists on it, changed it a little bit to make it more mine, but it was a really fun experiment. And I just remember that it did get my creativity going. This one I did over about 3 mornings. Kind of did the mushrooms first, then the background, and then the last day I went in and did the borders and tweaked it a little bit. Other days, it's something that I will just get out in a few minutes. This little owl image, it didn't take me very long. Definitely an image that I found online. I changed it up a little bit, but I kind of wanted that folk art feel, and I didn't worry about making it a perfect layout or using the right colors. I just was working with the colors that I had regularly. So that's another tip, is if you have a lot of art supplies, sometimes knowing what to use or deciding can add another choice that can make it hard to create. So yes, I have my beautiful work area where I create, where I have all of my art supplies. But for this practice, what I have, I'm going to show you in just a minute, is an art bag with a select amount of supplies, so it limits my options. Now, what I'm going to say is you probably could do this with so few supplies, and I have done that in the past. I'm a little overboard. I'm a little extra with what I'm about to show you, and if there's a lot of things in there. But I'm using these supplies, and that's wonderful. So this is an old Paper Studio bag from Hobby Lobby. I've had it for years. I've used it for tons of different things. I dug it out of the closet, and now just take a look. So I've got this baby stuffed full. I've got colored pencils. I've got some click art markers. I've got my highlighters, which I use for my daily planning. I've got some travel watercolors in here. You don't need all of this, okay? I've got my alcohol markers, some gel pens that I absolutely do not use hardly ever. But I've got it all. It's right there. It's handy. I've got a lot of colors to choose from, but not too many. And it just makes it easier. And I have all the morning journals that I use in there. Now, of course, you don't have to be crazy like me. You don't need 500 different journals. You don't need 5 journals in there. You could just have one. You could just have two. You could do something where you're just doodling. It doesn't have to include, painting or markers. It can just be sketching. I just love to add color, and I really wanted to use my alcohol markers more. So you're seeing a lot of that in here. So take into consideration what you want and what feels comfortable for you right now that you could do daily, and then you can slowly add and push that. So this one, I'm kind of showing the artist here for these fun little guys. I had so much fun with these little monster dudes. My color palette choice, atrocious here, but I just think they were so fun. And I'm trying things that are out of my comfort zone, out of my style. This is going to help me grow because trying these things out, I can see what appeals to me, what I like. It'll inspire me in my own art practice to try new things, to create things. So just making an effort daily, or you know what, if you can't commit daily, make an effort twice a week. Let it be a weekend thing, once a week. Give 15 minutes, right? Whatever amount of time that you can devote to your art practice or your creative practice, that is where you start. Start with what you have. Don't feel like you have to copy what I'm doing, what other people are doing. Make it work for you. I change up my routines. I change up my journaling plans a lot. This is quite a nightmare, guys. I am sorry you had to see that. I tried something and it did not work. So I reverted back on the next page to a super simple exercise, something I learned in elementary school, just doing these alternating lines until they explode and touch each other. And that is sometimes what I do in here. Sometimes I take the time to do an artwork. Sometimes I am just making lines. This took me 2 days to do this. I just did it that morning until I got tired. And then the next morning I added to it. Love this little pig guy. Definitely copied him. Couldn't find the artist, but I titled it Guilty. I think not. He really looks guilty. And then the little bird, he was a bird in the other photo, but I turned him into a weirdo alien bird because that is just a very me thing to do. But as you can see here, these are not like masterpieces. Like I did maybe 1 or 2 coats of alcohol marker on here. I didn't go in and perfect them. You can still see the places where I didn't erase the original lines. I get out of the lines. These are just bits to get you started. And please don't see this and think you need to do one of these every day because it could just be a doodle. There have been times in my life that my daily practice would consider of me just drawing one single figure, and that is enough. You know, start where you can start because there's a lot of places you can grow, a lot of ways that you can change. So the other tip besides making it as easy as you can by maybe limiting your supplies, making them very mobile, putting them where you can see them, is to habit stack, right? So if you already have a habit that you are doing, and I love this monster guy, he is so adorable. I had so much fun drawing him and playing with the textures. Love this artist's style so much. But the other thing is the habit stack. So, habit stacking is when you take an existing habit or thing that you do and you add a new habit to it. It is proven, and it certainly has worked for me and many other people, that you can add on a new habit to an existing habit and it makes it easier for the new habit to continue. So for me, when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do, I go in and I have my coffee or my Coke and my breakfast. I sit down and I watch a quick YouTube video of something. I'm strict about what I can watch in the morning just so I don't get started on a negative track. Love this little Disney girl here. And so I usually watch, funnily enough, a Disney Dreamlight Valley video of someone playing it, just because I know that it's going to be positive and it'll inspire me to play my game later. So I watch that, and then I would scroll on my phone or I would watch more videos. But I didn't want to do that. So I said, okay, after I watch that one video, after I finish my breakfast, the next thing I'm going to do, because I've already carried it in there with me, is I have my art bag and I have my journals and I pull it out and I added it on. And it was just originally just started, when I started it, I didn't actually take the whole bag in there. I started just taking one journal and one pen. And then after a few weeks of doing that, that's when I was like, oh, and then I was carrying 2 journals and then 3 journals and more stuff. And that was when I was like, oh, I need to put this in a bigger container to make it easier. So I slowly built up the practice by adding it to an existing thing, which was my breakfast and videos. And now it's very easy. And it's so much more rewarding to start my day like that than just watching multiple videos or ending up on TikTok or checking my email and ending up like paying bills or doing things that need to be done but don't need to be done first thing in the morning for my mental health, because I need time and space in the morning to start my day without a lot of outside influences and outside pressures, and my creative practice does that for me, and it starts my day so much better. And I have to share this little story with you real quick about these vultures. You're like, why is she drawing vultures? Well, there's a reason. So I was at the park with my son and we saw this group of vultures like trying to eat this live fish. They had stolen it from a heron or a crane and it wasn't going well. They don't normally, they eat dead things, right? So then the next thing you know, this one is over. He's like, he got kicked out and he sees something on the ground and he knows he has found a treat. So he dives in. He is so happy. And I'm trying to photograph this with my camera, but I don't get the shot. And he like picks this thing up in his mouth. He's like hopping around. He's so excited and he tries to eat it and it's a artificial rose. And he's so disappointed. You can just feel it coming off of him. And I didn't capture the photo on photograph. So I kind of became obsessed with it because I just thought it was amusing and I was so sad I didn't get it. So I was like, well, you can draw it and that way you'll always remember it. So I just Googled different images of vultures and drew them out. And then I added in the little rose and the fish to remind me of this. And then I actually ended up going on to make a sculpture of him and making a stop motion video for one of my college classes right now. So this little drawing spanned out into a lot of things. So your morning practice can also be capturing things from your day. This is something that I often do instead would be just to draw my day, where I would have just a little notebook and just a pen and I would doodle something from my day before or, kind of capture what I did in just pen and ink, right? So that's another way that you can do this. So we want to make it easy. We want to have it stack, and we want to make it so that we're putting in an effort, right? But we're not putting in all the effort. Okay, something simple like this. This is just a mixtape. I was listening to a music video. This happened to be like the cover of it on YouTube. And so I copied it, except I made a change to mine, which made the ribbon falling out because that's my memories of cassette tapes that, they were always getting eaten. And then you would have to, hopefully, it wouldn't be broken and you'd have to wind it back in. So that's one way that you can capture some memories as you're doing this too. So there's a lot of ways that you can do it, but just put in an effort. Don't go perfectionist, especially if you have limited time. The idea is to get something on paper like this. I mean, what in the scribbles is this? What is it? I don't know. Do I hate it? Absolutely. Was it fun? It was. Uh, I tried something and it didn't work. I tried to use colored pencils. I decided to add colored pencils to my bag to have something else to work with. They work nicely with the alcohol markers, but I don't have enough patience for colored pencils. I like the watercolor ones because I'm a scribbler. Like I end up just scribbling with colored pencils at some point, no matter how hard I go into it. But yeah, as you can see, there are just so many different options and ways that you can do something. It doesn't have to be great. It can be a hot mess like this because, it had a benefit. Love these little dino roars. They are so fun. And it was really fun to play around with the different shapes that this artist used and then to color them in with my alcohol markers. It's just a small thing that brought me a lot of joy. It didn't take very long. So, the other tip is if it's too hard, make it even easier. So, for instance, on this page, I did these two little cats, and I did use some colored pencils there, but they're little window kitties. They're always watching. So if the page feels overwhelming, break it up into smaller blocks like this. Do some smaller artworks that take a couple of days. So these two pages, they could take 4 or 5 days, or one day you might just do the sketch, and then the next day you might color it in, and then the third day you might add details. So it doesn't have to be doing a full page every day. I have a little bit more time in the morning for my art practice. I've purposely designed my life right now so that I can have these slow mornings and spend longer in my creative start than I've had in a lot of other times in my life. But I've still made this type of practice work many different times in many different situations. And if it's not a morning thing and you can't do it in the morning, don't get hung on that. It could be on your lunch break or, in the evening right before you go to bed. There's no right or wrong time to build your art practice. It's just to do it, to do that creative process. Even if your goal isn't to be a fantastic artist, it doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to be something you're doing to build a business or to be profitable. It just needs to be something that you enjoy, that you can have fun with, like this Defender of the All-Mighty Carved Lord at your service. Definitely copied this one. It had a different phrase on the top, but I tweaked it a little bit. I changed up Mr. Froggy. I love that he's got his red fuzzy bathrobe and he is good to go with his sword. And then last but not least, we are wrapping this up with a little Valentine's Day fun. I had so much fun drawing this little crab. And then I just added a little heart, and we use our colored pencils here. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Go create something, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.